Internet. Welcome to the Weeb and the Geek podcast. My name is Alibaba OTU, and I'm here with
Digiathena. I also go by Athena. And my pronouns are they, them, and theirs. And basically, I'm a huge Marvel nerd that loves talking about nerd culture in general.
Yeah, and I am just a big weeb. I am the weeb of the group, you know, the geek and the weeb. I'm not really into Marvel movies that much, but I am like a huge nerd when it comes to anime. Anything anime, anything PA works, anything by, like, basically, if it's animated, I'll probably like it. Unless it's Minions. That is probably my one step. Minions is probably worst anime.
All right.
And I am an actual anime fan. I am sorry. Minions is not an anime. I know that. Don't roast me in the comments. All right.
And we have a lovely guest with us today.
Rosecanonlybedrawn also goes by Rose.
Hi. Like they said, I'm Rose, but I go by she, her. I'm just a girl.
Yeah. And you also do a webcomic. Would you like to tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. My webcomic is called The Immortal Soul. Basically, it's about this hooded person who's traveling the world in order to resurrect this like fallen kingdom. But of course, there's always problems. This hidden figure always meets new people and everything, and I can't spoil that much because I'm not that far into the comic yet.
Yeah, and also you do a bit of art. I will link your Instagram and Tumblr below.
Yep.
Really good artwork. I like your style. Really reminds me of the shoujo-ish style you see in anime a lot. or like a mix. I feel like you're a mix of like shoujo and shonen. How would you describe your own like artwork?
My own artwork? I guess that's really hard to describe because I kind of want to lean towards more shonen, but yet somehow I love the style of shoujo, so I think it's always like somehow a combination of both.
Because I know what you mean. Because shoujo is like really like elegant, but also like, you know, like shonen has more of like focuses more like cool characters and like action. Yeah. Like I like the mix of two though. So you know, you do you, your style's, you know, really good. I like it.
Thank you.
I will link the comic below too. Really good. And I'm looking forward to seeing more from your work.
Thank you.
Yep. And now we will move on to the news segment.
All right, sounds good. So for news stories this week, Marvel fans are not happy with the new sneak peek of Infinity War. Basically, it happened overnight last night, and from the looks of sneak peek, it's just a poorly edited rerun of the original trailer. And the fans on Twitter, you know, of course, it being Twitter, roasted the fucking shit out of Marvel, saying this. Featuring a picture of the exasperated Tony Stark, one fan said, "So, not only did you give us new content, you shortened the content to what we already had." Another fan tweeted in response to the trailer a Captain America quote, "Personal favorite. Sometimes it leads to very little, and sometimes it's not worth it. And you wonder why you waited so long for something that is just so disappointing."
Ooh.
Oh my goodness.
Ouch.
Yeah, I thought anime fans were harsh, or just like Tumblr in general, but actually Twitter can get pretty intense.
And lastly, a fan tweeted this. "So, fans, at least we get some new footage during the Super Bowl. Marvel releases an even shorter version of the main trailer." Ouch.
Yeah.
And in other news, a new study revealed why Marvel movies are doing better at the box office versus DC movies. And I know a lot of you like to hypothesize about this, but a company called Zapastore used technology called Victiva to decode an audience's emotional and facial responses to the Marvel and DC trailers. And here's what they found. DC received better reviews when showing special effects and big action sequences, but lacked positivity when they were showing characters such as like Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, etc., etc.
Yeah, and like kind of makes sense because like I feel Marvel does get serious, but also has like a lot of lighthearted moments, and in general, like it's a lot of like, especially how they like shoot the movies, like it's a lot of daytime stuff. But with like DC, it's like a lot of darker stuff.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like that's the same. Like with DC, I think it is. They show. I kind of feel it's like more that dark, sinister tone from them. I feel. Yeah. But with like Marvel, though, it's like it's kind of like the opposite. It's something you can get. It's something that you can relate to more.
Yeah, because I felt like, you know, out of like it makes sense because Guardians of the Galaxy was just like one film like everybody liked, and it was just like it was a lot more jokes than the regular Avengers or anything.
Yeah,
honestly, it was.
Yeah, which is like entertaining because like it's superheroes or like you know space
Marauders, yeah.
Space Marauder, Space Pirate. I don't know what
Do
to
something good,
Yeah,
do something bad,
yeah,
something a little both.
Yeah, it's funny.
So Marvel, as both my co-hosts said, Marvel received better ratings when showing characters and humor, making the trailer being shown more relatable to the audience. The ratings to these trailers panned out as such. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 got the highest rating score of 78%, while the Captain America Civil War coming in a close second with 75% of viewers being deemed lovers of the Marvel franchise. Justice League for DC scored 71%, and Batman vs. Superman came in a second with a 60% score for the lovers.
It's kind of weird because I feel like critically, Wonder Woman is probably the best film they have because Suicide Squad really did bad with critics. Justice League did okay. Yeah. And Batman vs. Superman did horrible. I know everyone did not like that movie. Yeah, I know it has its defenders, but like I feel like, that movie very
flawed. Not very good.
Man of Steel was actually pretty good too. So I'm surprised that Wonder Woman or Man of Steel didn't really make it because I felt like out of all their films, me personally, that Man of Steel and Wonder Woman were the best structured.
Oh yeah.
I haven't seen Wonder Woman yet, so don't.
Definitely recommend it. Love that film.
Yeah, everyone recommends it.
So what does this tell us? Basically what it tells us is that DC has been flopping in comparison to Marvel movies. It seems there are problems with their characters being relatable to the audience, and I hope they can improve upon such in future movies.
Yeah, I really, I feel like out of all the characters in just comic universes, I feel like DC's are the most well known. So it's kind of sad how everybody knows about Batman, everybody knows about Superman, but I feel like they're kind of just going to be overshadowed in the future because the movies aren't really doing well, and like not a lot of people read the comics, especially since the movies aren't doing well.
Oh yeah,
it's like they're more famous in name rather than what they're known for.
Yeah,
I find that quite sad as well because I'm striving to be a comic artist, but yet their legacy is gonna be overshadowed by something
by Marvel
because our current media is not doing their job and trying to represent or trying to preserve their own legacy that they have built over these years.
Yeah, because I feel like I know they're trying to be different from Marvel, but I feel like that's kind of like not benefiting them because they tried to be more funny with Suicide Squad and that didn't work. Yeah. And they tried to be like extra really serious and gritty with Batman versus Superman and to an extent Justice League. I feel like the only time it worked for them was kind of like Man of Steel and Wonder Woman because they tried to be realistic, but I felt like they balanced out the contrast of being like a superhero movie and being realistic at the same time.
That is true.
And I just think they need to personally, I feel like they need to kind of like redo the films. Yeah. If anything. Like, I don't think Justice League is going to work. Like, it made money, but I doubt it's going to be, like, kind of like the Avengers of surviving franchise. Yeah,
they really need to step up their game. Yeah. Finally, Valkyrie from Thor Ragnarok is indeed bisexual. Here is the evidence to support this claim. The actress that played Valkyrie in the movie, Tessa Thompson, pitched the concept to Taika Waititi. She wanted her character to be bisexual based on the comics, which Valkyrie has a relationship with a woman named Annabelle Riggs. She convinced Waititi to shoot a scene with a woman walking out of her bedroom. Though ultimately it distracted from the movie in the end and was cut out, Waititi kept it for as long as he could. Though, spoiler alert, you paid attention to the flashback scene where Hela is massacring her sister in arms, Tessa states this about that scene. "It's a great shot of me falling back from one of my sisters who's just been slain," says Thompson. "In my mind, that was my lover." She sells the point hard, because a blonde Nordic woman who's apparently her lover jumps in front of her to save her from Hela's blades. If that isn't love, I don't know what is. Plus, what makes this so amazing is that Valkyrie is like a trope, basically. The fallen spouse of a soldier who turns into a drunk, apathic person to the world and is kind of show off to the people surrounding them. Yeah, like the fallen hero thing. Like, they've been through a lot, but in the end, like, they get inspired. Yeah. Yeah, and usually in, at least movies, as I see, it's usually played by a man. So it's kind of interesting that it's actually played by a woman this time. Yeah, because you really don't see that, especially since we kind of have an ideal of when something bad happens to a woman or something really traumatic, it's just depression. But when something bad happens to a guy, it's just kind of like, not to get too political, but when something bad happens to a guy, they usually just become like a cool drunkard, doesn't really want to hang out with anyone, like that lone wolf hero. So it's kind of cool we saw that contrast. Yeah, so props to Tessa Thompson, you go girl.
Yeah.
And I think that's it for nerd news.
All right, and anime news in Japan land, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. The Box Office Mojo has listed Studio Ponic's new Ghibli-esque movie, Mary and the Witch's Flower, made about $1 million in its first week in the U.S., which is pretty okay for a limited release. It was only in 573 theaters. Makes kind of sense because, like, a lot of movie theaters or, like, distributors really aren't willing to put that much money into anime movies for, like, a longer release because of how much money they might potentially lose. Because in general, you know, even though there are a ton of anime fans, even if movies were wider released, I feel like after kind of the first couple of months, everyone just kind of stopped going to watch it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because in general, anime fans are more conditioned to watch things online. That's why you see things like Crunchyroll, High Dive, all those streaming sites are doing really well. Because, I don't know, even me too. Like, I'm more used to watching things online, but getting that theater experience is something, like, I really enjoyed.
Oh, yeah.
Especially since we went to watch it, but, like, that's more in the What's in Our Mug segment. But,
yeah.
We'll get to that later. And Magical Girl's site just released its new visuals. You guys just saw them. Just kind of regular cute girl-ish high school, you know, setting. And the synopsis is basically about how a girl kind of finds this, I guess, parasite that gives her magical powers, which is kind of weird since you wouldn't expect that. It's a really weird way of getting your powers, origin story at least. And the title's kind of play on words, Magical Girl site, you know, parasite. It's probably gonna be one of those like dark fantasy-esque like magical girl shows like Madoka Magica. A lot of those gonna probably study themes about lesbianism because like a lot of magical girl shows are lesbian.
Oh yeah.
Which I appreciate.
I will not. I'm not denying anything.
Yeah, you're not denying. Yeah, I mean, a lot of them are basically canon, so yeah, we can appreciate that about it. So magical girl sites visuals, basically really pretty art. I guess just standard anime, cute girl in high school stuff. Yeah. And in other news, the Devilman box set just got announced. It's going about $300 US. You can convert that to yen. I'm not doing that. But yeah, it's being released and it comes with a 100-page artistic booklet of key visuals and just art done by the creators of the show. Masaki Yuasa's like really like kind of squishy-ish designs for the characters. I mean, really unique style. I like it. If I had the money, I'd buy it.
Yeah.
It comes with all 10 episodes, and the interesting thing about the box is it actually comes with a vinyl of the Devilman soundtrack, which is something, if you like to collect vinyls, that is definitely something you should put on your list. The Devilman soundtrack is pretty good. Especially, the EDM, really works. I mean, if you have the money, buy it. I'd like to buy it, but yeah. And since it's a Japan Blu-ray release, it might be more expensive upon shipping.
Oh yeah,
that's
and smaller news: the Gundam Origin just released its trailer for episode 6 of its kind of reboot of the Gundam Universe's franchise. Or what would you call it? Gundam? I know there's a Universe 1, or no, it would be called Gundam Original War. Whatever it's called. I'm not a Gundam fan. Obviously, you guys can probably see. I've been recently getting into it, but it's basically a reboot of the original 70s series, which is about 80 episodes long. Kind of a retelling of story, gritty war story about like space adventures and battles for like colonies in space, things like that. Pretty dark. I watched the first episode of the reboot. It's pretty good. I don't know if I want to go back and watch a 70s show because it's kind of like limited animation, but the art still looks good. A lot of action, big robots fighting. Trailer was just basically a pretty boy just looking at a robot, which is basically all Gundam shows. So nothing new. But yeah, the art style looks pretty well. It looks interesting. It's only going to be 6 episodes. So I'm excited to see how they're going to end the whole series, especially since the original 70s cartoon was about 80 episodes, 70 episodes. So it's kind of cool how they're going to kind of compact all the plot points in like this reboot.
Yeah.
From the episode I've seen, it's pretty good. Good animation, good. If you like giant robots, definitely watch it. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. You are the mecha fan. Definitely need to get into that. And so now we are moving on to what's in our mug. So, Digiathena, would you like to go first?
All right. So basically, what's in my mug for today? Well, it's actually vanilla cinnamon tea, if you must know. But.
Oh, sorry, really quick. What's in our mug is our segment that we do every podcast. Basically talking about any recent piece of media we've consumed, whether we recommend it or not. Video games, books, novels, manga, anime, whatever it can be, whether we recommend it or not. And it's probably going to be, since we're both nerds, And, you know, I'm a weeb. We're probably going to recommend something geeky, nerdy, you know, things like that.
Don't forget about the artist here.
The artist here, too. Probably going to recommend something artistic.
Oh, yeah.
You never know.
So basically, I'd recommend for TV shows / movies to see this week. In nerd culture is definitely The Magicians. Like, oh my god, love that show. Been there since, like, you know, episode 1. And for Harry Potter fans, definitely watch it. Star Wars is also something, The Last Jedi is also something I'd really recommend. Lots of plot twists, salty Luke Skywalker, it's amazing.
Yeah, from what I've heard, it's been really polarizing with fans, especially since some people either love it and some people hate it.
Oh,
which
yeah.
I still need to watch it, so no spoilers, but
No,
I'm
of course
pretty
not.
excited. I hope it's not as bad as the prequels, though. Like, I feel definitely, if you had to give your 2 cents, is it better than the prequels?
Oh, it's way better than
All right,
prequels.
that's all I need to know. Like, if it's better than prequel, that's fine. Yeah.
And it's a must-see, and I won't spoil anything for you. As well as, I would say watch Thor Ragnarok whenever it comes out on, you know, DVD, Blu-ray, Netflix, whatever.
Yeah.
Good movie. Definitely see it for Tessa Thompson. She's bae.
And definitely see it for those Loki and Thor moments. I watched it and I love their brother.
My gosh.
Especially since they acted like a real sibling. Like, you know what I mean? We really don't get that. It's either like, in fantasy stories, it's either like the siblings hate each other and like they're mortal enemies, and they'll have moments where it'd be like, this isn't the real you, where it's like really stereotypical. But I love how they act like just 2 brothers. Just like making fun of each other.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, yeah.
And, you know, if you like Tom Hiddleston, see it for Loki.
Yep.
As I
Oh my god. Love that.
my
Love that
God.
transition. Love that.
do. Yes.
Transition.
Yes.
Alright. So,
Oh, what's in my mug? Well, I have been watching a lot of anime. Yeah, sorry.
No,
sorry.
really?
Yeah, no, really? I mean, the Weeb, yeah. No, well, I haven't been really keeping up with this season in anime. The only thing I've been watching recently, last week I actually started that new mecha series that premiered, Darling in the Franxx.
ooh.
Yeah. Which is done by Studio Trigger. They're known for like their really crazy anime. They did Studio Trigger is basically made up of people who worked on Gainax, which is the studio that made Evangelion, Gurren Lagann, Panty and Stocking. They made like all those really crazy over the top shows. So like Studio Trigger is like that, but it's the same thing. It's basically they make a lot of over the top shows. They made Kill la Kill, which was about the rebellion and taking off your clothes.
Oh,
Basically-
my God.
It was basically a message about rebellion and how like clothes can be restraining to society. So yeah.
Oh,
It was technically a magical girl show because the main character got her powers from like wearing this like sailor
Sailor uniform.
Yeah, sailor uniform. I'm sorry, I haven't watched Kill la Kill in a while.
Yeah.
And like she basically gets a new costume change whenever she wears it. It's pretty interesting. I mean, for me, it's pretty entertaining at least. Like if you want to watch like a popcorn anime, quote unquote, like their shows are really good. Darling in the Franxx is nothing really new. Just about mechas, and a really big part of the show is how there's a story about, I forgot specifically what it was called, but there's a story about this Chinese bird, which is actually kind of a myth, but it's about this bird that it can't fly. It only has 1 wing, and it can't fly unless it has a female or male bird next to it. So it's kind of like a metaphor for, you know, how lovers like are really close to each other.
Oh, interesting
And
concept.
That's very nice.
And in the show, like they are able to pilot these robots called Franks by, you know, being a male and a female pair. Which is pretty interesting because I really would like to see if they ever go the route of having like a homosexual, like a girl on girl pair piloting a mech. Because love is love, you know.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
true. That is true.
So it looks good from what I've seen. The animation's good. It's a collaboration between Studio Trigger, like I said, and Studio A1 Pictures, and they've done something you've heard of. They did Erased, they did Sword Art Online, they did Your Line April. They did a lot of popular shows.
Oh wow.
So you probably know them. So it's pretty cool to see their kind of mixing of, because Studio Studio A1 Pictures usually does like really normal shows, really dramas, or like really popular things. Like most of their stuff is really popular. And Studio Trigger is known for like they're really like weird, over the top, a lot of action, a lot of yelling, a lot of anime. Basically, think Dragon Ball mixed with any other anime. That's their show. Because there's a lot of yelling, there's a lot of over the top action, there's a lot of I'm gonna shoot a galaxy at you as my weapon.
Oh,
Wow.
jeez.
So yeah, Darling in the Franxx, definitely recommend it if you like mecha. It's pretty good. The designs are unique. The art looks really well, and it's a Studio Trigger show. So just be prepared for a lot of insaneness.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of good action. And in other things I've been watching, I've actually started watching Neon Genesis Evangelion. Which if you're an anime fan, you've heard of it. It's like that really, really popular anime show that like defined anime in the 90s.
Cool.
Yeah, influenced a lot of stuff, and perfect transition because it actually influenced the other show I'm going to be talking about, Devilman Crybaby.
Mm-hmm.
I finished that with my friend here, Athena, and any thoughts? What would you like to say about Devilman Crybaby?
Oh my gosh. So, I love the show in general. Basically, it was a lot of sex, drugs, rock and roll, gore, and, that kind of jazz. It's graphic with lots of gore and violence, and basically if shit like this kind of gives you nightmares, trust me, I'm in the same boat as that. Please, do not watch this. Or, if you, are not approving of, like, sexualized women, sexualized men, who fuck cares, don't watch this either.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely one of those animes that you have to be 18 to watch. Like, I have watched a lot of anime, and I will say that this is kind of it's interesting because it's kind of a throwback to the 70s and 80s, like OVAs that you see, like original animes that they'd release on DVD only.
Oh, yeah.
Because, on TV they wouldn't put, like, a lot of nudity or a lot of blood.
That is true.
Yeah, it's probably of a throwback because, like, I have not seen an anime that's come out in a while with as much blood and gore and references to sex, actually showing same-sex relationship, which is like really rare for an anime.
Oh yeah. Hey, no spoilers.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I already knew that.
Yeah.
No, I did that. A lot of people on Instagram, Tumblr, they love that show.
Yeah,
because of the couple.
Yeah.
They love that.
Especially because the show is pretty gay. I mean, people are freaking... surprisingly, it's a really violent show, so it would...
Oh, yeah.
I know that much.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like something that appealed to people on Tumblr, especially because of the fandom side of things, but there are a lot of ships in that show.
Mm-hmm. There really are.
So, yeah, and other things we have watched, we watched Mary and the Witch's Flower last week. Any thoughts, Athena?
So unlike my co-host, who I'm going to roast, who's nitpicky about these movies, and rightfully so, since he watches way more anime than I do.
You know what?
Let the person talk.
This is gonna be interesting.
I thought that this film, was basically okay. I would give it, like, basically 8, 7 out of 10, something like that. Something I watch again if I only wanted to, see it if somebody was like, oh, I really want to see Mary and the Witch's Flower. Yeah, maybe I'll go watch it again with you, but yes, the color palette was drab, but I also kind of found that it didn't really draw me in. The characters felt like very underdeveloped, and we didn't really find out about, spoiler alert, Peter's mom and, the backstory on a lot of the characters. So it kind of felt two-dimensional and very unrelatable to a degree. Yeah. I also found that the colors were drab, as my co-hosts will go on to say, and only ever really popped when the flowers were there. The animation was good for a starter movie that was testing the waters with a brand new animation studio. Yeah, Studio Ponic actually did that. Kind of same thing with Studio Trigger. A lot of employees from Ghibli kind of went and formed their own studio, and that's really interesting because I've heard they formed the new studio just because Ghibli really isn't making that many movies. Oh yeah. They're I know it takes a long time to make an anime movie, but I think people really want to, have families to feed. And Ghibli movies are really well crafted and stuff, but they don't happen a lot, so.
That is true.
It's interesting that they went on and started this new movie. The director of Mary and the Witch's Flower is actually and a couple of other Ghibli movies like When Marnie Was There and Secret World of Arrietty. Mm-hmm. He's the guy who actually started the studio with a couple of his colleagues. Oh yeah. Yeah. So, I didn't think they did a terrible job, just wouldn't really watch it again unless somebody really wanted me to. And, my thoughts on the movie, I'm kind of polarized. I've had a couple days to think about it. It's, first of all, let me give credit where credit is due. The animation is gorgeous. Mm-hmm. There is a ton of movement. The designs are unique. I like that how none of the characters really look attractive. Mm-hmm. Even Mary, she's cute, I guess, but, her eyebrows, though. Mm-hmm. Her eyebrows. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, the art in the... I've had more time to think about it. When my first reaction, as Athena pointed out, was kind of negative, but I've kind of had a couple days to think about it, think it over, and I actually kind of like it. It's not one of my favorite movies. I'd still give it a 7 out of 10 or maybe a 6 on a bad day, because the story was kind of simple, and you could tell it was a movie made for children. Yeah. The thing with and you kind of see this contrast. The thing with Ghibli movies is that they're fun adventures. They can also be really emotional, but they're also mature in some parts.
Oh, yeah.
I agree on that.
Yeah, they're also fun in general, and I feel like Mary and the Witch's Flower was kind of a hit or miss for some people. Like, I feel like some people will like it. Like, if you're a kid, or if you want to take your kid to watch it, you're probably going to love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty, I mean, the art looks good, but I think my main problem with the movie was just the color palette. Like, I don't think a lot of the colors popped out at me.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like a lot of thought and care was put into the color, like the color palette at least. Like the backgrounds are well designed, like all the animation was really great. I like the character designs, like that's one thing I'll say that really worked well for this movie. I just felt if the colors were a little bit more brighter, I'd enjoyed the movie more. It has a generic plot, I don't know, and kind of does something really cool you don't really see. It puts kind of puts a twist on the damsel in distress situation, which I won't spoil. But yeah.
Yeah, especially since one here has not watched it.
Yeah, I won't spoil that. Don't worry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Definitely worth the watch. I mean, if you watch all the Ghibli movies and you really want something to kind of like fill that urge to watch another one or fill that hole in your heart, like if you really want to watch a new one, because Miyazaki is actually making his last movie and before he retires in a couple of years. I think 2 years.
I thought he already retired.
No, he comes out of retirement a lot.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
no.
Why am I not surprised?
Yeah, like anime fans know Miyazaki will be like, I'm retiring, I'm making my last movie, then he'll come out again of retirement and be like, I want to make this movie. And yeah, but this time I'm pretty sure he's gonna retire. He's pretty old. I'm not sure, but I think he's in his 70s or 80s. So it'd probably be a good time for him to retire, especially since he's a workaholic. He likes to really draw a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Work on his anime. But if you really want to fill that, going back to that, if you really want to fill that Ghibli like urge, really watch Mary and the Witch's Flower. I recommend it. Support it and watch it on Blu-ray. Support the artist because there was a lot of thought and care put in this movie, and I'll see that. I'm just excited for where Studio Ponuk is gonna like take their animation and their ideas, because the first one was kind of a children's movie, which makes sense.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they wanted something that was successful, and apparently it did really well in Japan, so, we won't be seeing the last of the studio.
Yep.
I really hope they can develop their own style, you know what I mean?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, because Mary and the Witch's Flower looks really similar to Ghibli movies. Like, it's not...
Not gonna lie, when I first saw the trailer online, I actually thought it was another Ghibli movie.
Yeah, that's what everyone thought.
I thought, oh my gosh, another Ghibli movie. Then I was like, Studio Ponuk, but isn't that Ghibli style?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes sense since it's the same employees, but I'd rather them find their own style, because a lot of the animation techniques were taught by Miyazaki.
It really was.
Yeah, so a lot of their movement was kind of like what Miyazaki taught them, but I really like them to see, get in their own thought. Maybe do a more adult movie.
Yeah.
Because Ghibli movies are pretty mature, but it'd be interesting if they did like an actual like kind of like seinen anime, like literally like not dark, but like at least has adult characters in it. And
I just like the tint of dark in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially since now they have like all this money from Mary and the Witch's Flower, they're definitely going to start a new project, and I'm excited to see. And yeah, Miyazaki's making his last movie, so let's just hope Ghibli, can keep pumping out successes, especially since they're losing some of their staff. The Studio Ponuk. Yeah, so let's just hope they can keep going.
Yep, fingers crossed.
And the last thing I wanted to mention was I've been reading that new manga, Delicious Dungeon, which is really interesting manga. It's about basically dungeon explorers. Like, it's set in like this RPG fantasy world. It's basically about these dungeon explorers who go into different dungeons to like raid treasures and stuff, like any RPG or fantasy world. And the twist on this is like one of the members of this like guild of knights is actually a cook.
Ooh.
And actually does a lot about recipes. It's more of a comedy manga. It's gotten a lot of praise. Like, I've heard people say they love it. Yeah, I mean, I can understand why it's popular. I really hope it does get an anime adaptation, because like talks a lot about goes really in depth about like how dishes are made. It actually gives recipes and stuff.
Oh wow, that's kind of amazing.
So it's been interesting. I read up to volume 1, and I don't know. I'll probably keep reading it. I think in America there's only 4 volumes so far, so yeah.
We'll keep you posted on that.
We'll keep you posted on that. Hope it gets an anime adaptation pretty good. Yeah, that is my rundown. Definitely recommend everything I watched. There really wasn't anything. Devilman Crybaby was a 9 out of 10 for me. Mary and the Witch's Flower was 7 out of 10. I'd say Evangelion so far is a 8 out of 10. Looks pretty good. Has that 90s anime aesthetic.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Darling in the Franxx. I'd say it's 8 out of 10. I really want to see what they're going to do. I want to see if it's going to be... It's gonna definitely be over the top, but I really want to see if they take that extra step to make it like just interesting in terms of story.
I see.
Yeah, because like a lot of the shows that they make are polarizing. Like, you either think they're genius shows that save anime, or shows that are just kind of like popcorn anime where you just watch them and there's like action.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, that is about it. Now moving on to our general discussion.
All right.
Yeah, so this is the first episode. We're basically going to be shooting the shit here, talking about whatever we want. We're going to do more topics in the future, but, just so you get a idea of what we like to see in media, idea of, like, where our point of views come from. We're both, actually, Digiathena is 19, I'm 18, and our guest here is 18 as well.
Yep, I'm the baby.
Yeah, you're the baby of the group, still in high school.
Yeah. Don't worry about it.
Which is funny. Oh my god. But yeah, so anything you wanted to bring up, talk about?
Not really on my end, but I did have some questions for our guest if she's willing to answer.
Sure, it's no problem at all.
Especially since you are an artiste.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we already know your name, your pronouns, and your title of your art sites and such, where we can find you. Why did you decide to be an artist?
Well, it's kind of a little bit of a long story. Basically, when I was younger, I used to love drawing like any kid would. Like, I would draw, like, there's this crazy story about me that my brother told me once. That I used to have this weird habit of just staring up at the ceiling, and if I see little bumps at the ceiling, I would actually make little drawings out of it.
Huh.
That's interesting. Like, kind of like constellations, but with the ceiling.
Like little constellations on the wall. And
I mean, it makes sense, because, like, where we live, we're not going to give location, but where we live, there's a lot of light pollution. You can't really see the stars.
That is true.
Yeah.
And one day, he said, I actually made a turtle, but he couldn't find it. Until I actually pointed to the 3 dots that connected the turtle. And then I had to point mortar, and he saw I made a giant turtle. And he would try to make the little images with me, but instead he would make like a little inch bunny or duck. And I made like maybe a 3 feet turtle.
Oh, really?
On the wall.
Cool.
Interesting, yeah.
And I honestly just kept drawing ever since I was like young. I would like fill out the coloring books and all that stuff. And I just kept drawing more and more until I reached maybe, I took a break during elementary school for a bit because I wanted to do other stuff, of course. Yeah. And it wasn't until maybe back in 6th grade where I found out anime for a friend.
Yeah.
And honestly, I just fell in love with anime and like...
It's relatable,
It really is.
Yeah, I heard a lot of stories of people finding anime in like middle school and like, starting to do their own art or trying to like make their own stories, fan fiction,
Oh, yeah.
Really, that's really the same thing that's happened to me. So, since 6th grade, I like honed my skills. I went back to drawing completely and kept drawing for years and years until today, where I'm in high school and I still draw and I'm starting up my webcomic.
Yeah, and I'd say it's paid off. I love your style. Like I said before, it's kind of like if you're into shoujo or shonen, like it's kind of like a cool mix between that. I love the fantasy and I love the clothing designs. Especially for a character you will show later on in the comic. No spoilers.
No spoilers.
But one of those character designs looks gorgeous.
You can mention one because they're the main character.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, it looks beautiful though, like her dress and everything. Like,
thank you. But like honestly, like I'm still a novice. I still have much to learn, so I'm always drawing and ready to learn for anything.
All right. Second question. What's your favorite or least favorite piece of art done by yourself?
My favorite piece? Oh my goodness, that's so hard to pick. But
what's your magnum opus so far?
So far, I've not done really like full scale like masterpieces or anything like I've seen on any social media. I've only been able to do sketches because of like real life schoolwork and everything.
That makes sense. Especially takes a long time to draw, and especially if you want to put care and thought into like every piece of artwork you do.
That is true. Yeah. But something I'm actually most proud of was this Pages sketches I actually did like a while back around Christmas time. And it was around when I got this Fire Emblem art book, and I was really proud of how it came out because the art book, of course, since in the art book it came with a lot of references to armor and everything. Yeah. So I used that, and so I really was proud of how the sketches came out.
Oh, those look so cool.
And of course you can find this on my Instagram.
Oh, really cool. And
links in the description.
Roses can only be drawn Instagram. Love the art. So I think, like, would you say you take a lot of inspiration from like fantasy, video games, anime, things like that?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Like one of my top loves right now is like Fire Emblem.
Yeah. And for anyone who doesn't know, Fire Emblem's like a strategy RPG game, really anime art style, kind of like a visual novel-esque story. With like that. Pretty good. It's in a long series of games from the 90s. Really recommend it. I've been a fan of the series for about like 6 years. I've played Sacred Stones, Fates, and Awakening. So.
Oh my goodness.
Sounds cool.
It really does.
So I have another question for you.
Go right ahead.
And I'm gonna tweak it slightly. Okay. So, what college do you plan on attending, and are you going to get a degree in art?
Oh, definitely, I'm gonna get a degree in art. But for colleges, Okay, no, but what I plan to do is basically, there's a local college, community college around my area, so I'm gonna head there for maybe 2 years and then transfer into an art school, which is around my area, and I really planned. My original plan was to go to an art school first, but I'm not in the best financial situation right now.
No,
with my
that
family and everything, so
that
I
makes
have to-
perfect sense, especially since art school is expensive. And from what I've heard, I feel like art school is kind of like a stepping stone where you have to try like a lot of different things first. Because I know a lot of people who go to like really big name art schools, and I've heard their stories about how they eventually like start working on studios. Like they start going to Pixar after. They start working on like movies for different studios in here, animation studios in like Korea, and get to travel and stuff like that.
That's quite amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, if I feel like if I try to go to art school right now, I won't be able to succeed as well if I took the art courses back at the community college, because I'm not all that diverse in my little world yet. So I'd rather have more fertile ground and be more diverse and wait 2 years rather than just trying. I'm not a real big risk taker at times, but like I'd rather just be firm and plant into the ground and then branch out before I can take any major risks, especially if it has something to do with financial money or anything like that.
Yeah, especially my
definitely.
question too. Do you, like, really quick question, do you plan on getting into animation or just doing artwork?
I plan on just doing the artwork. I think people who do animation, that takes a lot of dedication.
Yeah, that's like
and
a whole
time.
different thing, because there's animation theory.
Maybe
Yeah.
one day I might get into animation. I don't know myself. It's always like planning about the future. But yeah, someday. Who knows? Maybe someday. But right now, I just plan on making my little comics and maybe hopefully be able to get more money. And
Yeah,
things
that
like
makes sense. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Especially since, like, I have to, like, being an artist is commendable, because you have to be ready just to, struggle a lot. So it, like, makes sense that you just want to, like, be prepared.
Yeah.
Everything, too. Because, like, like, not everything's going to work out, but, like, eventually, like, your art gets shown. Like, if you really put a lot of passion to it, someone's going to say, I love it.
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then do you do commissions by chance?
I think I want to do commissions, but since I've still not gained that much attention or anything, I don't think anyone would be really interested in doing commissions for me.
Okay.
And so, I'm not sure if I ever want to, like, I want to do commissions at some point, but right now it's not the time because I haven't really fully developed my art style, even though, like, you're complimenting everything, it's not fully developed yet.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's fine. Like, it's coming from the artist's mouth herself, so.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I still, like, I'm not really that popular, but, like, I'm still really minor. Nobody really knows my name that well. Like, I'm not really recognizable, so I'd rather just wait in time until I can do commissions and when I'm, like, fully recognized.
Yeah,
And-
building up a profile and such.
And one quick question for me. Do you ever plan on doing anything else, but are you more firmly paced in fantasy, or do you ever plan on doing things like sci-fi or even Western? If that ever
Actually-
comes up.
Yeah. Actually, I have some other ideas in the back burner, like, that are, like, actually realistic. Some that are actually, whatchamacallit? What was the other genre you said?
Western.
No,
Sci-fi, yeah.
like sci-fi. I still have fantasy. I still have other fantasy stories, but like I plan on maybe doing sci-fi one day if I can or something. And I definitely have realistic stories that apply to here, of course. And
Cool.
it's always like if I ever see a genre and I'm just like, why don't I try? Like, and I think of an idea or something that pops in my mind. I'm just like, you know what? This is a genre, so I'm gonna try.
Yeah, it makes
Sounds
sense.
neat. Do you have any other recommendations of like artists to check out?
Oh my goodness.
We'll have links in the description.
Yeah,
Yes. Okay, so I have a whole bunch. For example, like there's Lavender Town who makes a comic called Unfamiliar about this little witch named Paulette. I think that's how you pronounce her name. But basically this little witch she comes from a suburban area, just moves into this witch town, and now is trying to get rid of her new house with all these ghosts that are inside of it. And I love the style. And it's so
Oh, is it
cute.
more of a comedy?
It's like a little more comedy, and it's like a really cute, like cartoonish style. It's still really adorable, and I love it.
Oh, I love that.
And of course, there's like a comic I love called King's Folly.
Ooh. Nice.
King's Folly basically is about the struggle between the white and the black king that exists in this world where you get your powers depend on the color of your own soul. It's really interesting, and I love it so far. I love the style and like the plot and the characters themselves. And this comic is by Wispy Will. And, like, oh my goodness, she's just, like, a really great artist, and I really love her style so much.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, we'll put everything in the description. Don't worry,
Yep.
guys. Yep.
I could go on considering all the comics I read.
Yeah, and basically, I'll put our social media too. But basically, if you guys ever see my Tumblr, like a lot of Japanese art or just like artists I follow that I reblog, Because there are a lot of talented people on Tumblr.
There
that I like
really
to follow.
are. I'm not gonna lie, and I think this is gonna be the last one I mention because I don't want to take. It'll probably take an hour just to say all the comics I read, maybe. But another one I really love is called A Matter of Life and Death, which is about. It's kind of like a one-sided love, kind of. It's basically about these kind of two godlike people. One called Life and one called Death, obviously, and Death is hopelessly in love with Life.
Aww.
Oh, just
So
to make things clear, both of them are guys.
Yeah. Oh my god.
He's hopelessly in love with Life, and now there's of course mystery wrapped around this and everything. But I just love the comic. I love the character. Death is obviously I love you, Death. I love Death. I'm not gonna admit it. I'm not gonna say I'm not. I love him. He's one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
And
is it a very shippable comic? Because from what I've heard, it's very shippable.
What do you think, Genius?
Probably. Yep. And can we find these on tapas?
Yes, you can. Absolutely, you can find these on Tapas, and there's other comics that on Tapas you can read, or on Webtoons themselves. There's a bunch of comics.
Definitely my favorite comic for online comics. I usually use Line Webtoons, which is Line is the company who does that Asian messaging app. So,
actually.
Yeah, they've done a lot of free comics and Tapas too. I love both of those comics. And especially since they're free, because
Yes.
I am the quote unquote broke college student, so Lezen is nice. They have really good comics, but I don't paying a lot for a comic is kind of, especially since it's a webcomic, so I don't have a physical copy. Yeah.
All right. So that's practically it for my questions. My last one is basically an icebreaker. Anybody else have anything to say as far as shooting the shit here?
Yeah, I have a question I'd like to ask both of you.
Sure.
How do you feel about just the whole kind of, especially not really much in a lot of anime or Japanese media, but how you feel really kind of the push for romantic involvement in American media? Everything has to be a love story, whether it be an action, a western, just anything. Because I kind of noticed this with I've recently watched something that wasn't in my What's in My Mug because I don't recommend it. Jumanji. I watched the Jumanji sequel. I watched the first one. It's pretty interesting. Second one, it was okay, I guess. It's a very safe movie, if that makes any sense. There's not. It's really predictable. There's not really any risks taken in the story or in the characters.
I see.
I mean, there is one thing that they do, but it's pretty much like a one-off joke thing. So yeah. I mean, I think just want to give my 2 cents on it. I feel like people can have romance in the stories and shipping, but I feel I see it so much that I kind of get sick of it sometimes. Every time an action story comes around, there has to be a romance, or every time there's a sci-fi or anything else. You can't just be good friends. And I feel like people use that as criticism for people on Tumblr, shipping culture. I feel like it's kind of different because we see that in every American movie. So I feel like that's why people are kind of sick of it, or any anime too, because it can be a prevalent problem in anime and manga. So
that is true.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about kind of the forced romance? Athena, you want to go first?
Well, I don't mind it at times. And I do believe that, given Disney as an example, Moana or something like that, or Frozen even, where you have the main character, but she doesn't fall in love, the main protagonist doesn't fall in love with the guy she's traveling with. Just as an example, I really do like that, and I think I appreciate it a little bit more than I do having a forced love interest, in the case of Marvel Age of Ultron, which I just was rewatching a little while ago, where Natasha and Banner are the forced love interest, which I find is kind of weird because Banner's way older than she is, but that's forced romance for you. I find that it's I guess it's the feminist in me, sorry, that I think a woman can support herself, and she can be the hero of her own story, and she doesn't need a guy or even a woman to really support her.
Yeah, because I feel a really big criticism people like to bring up with whenever something's trying to be a little bit more PC, politically correct. People like to bring up oh, you're forcing it, but I feel the problem is people don't know how to write these characters. You can see that a lot with Marvel Comics. Marvel Comics really has this big push for diversity right now. There's the new
Black Panther.
Yeah, Black Panther.
Oh, yeah.
No, but there's also the new especially in comics Black Panther's kind of been a thing for a while, but there's the new Captain America who's black. There's a new Miss Marvel. There's everything else. I feel people. Well, some of the stories are all well written. I'm gonna give my 2 cents on it because I've been keeping up with Marvel in terms of comics a little bit more than I've been with DC. But I feel a lot of these stories kind of feel forced, especially how like people from the other side too like to bring up the criticism like, oh, you don't like these stories just because it's a woman. But I feel like that's not the point. I feel like the whole thing is like the stories kind of don't seem like really well written. Because you'll see like one of the Captain Marvels was actually a black woman back in like the 70s. Like that was a thing, but like no one talks about it. I feel like now people are just trying to pander to audiences, and like I feel it's important to have diversity, but I also feel like it's important to have well-written stories, and I feel like we should hire not just people in cast to be diverse, but also people in director seats to write better stories. So
That
I feel
is
like
true.
I feel like the whole point, like the whole problem with like trying to write diverse characters, that you really don't get people who have different perspectives to write them, or at least people with like a good resume of writing, you know, different stories, or going to college for writing, or going to like, you know, having their own like comics that they've written before, kind of having like really good cohesive stories.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Like I feel like that's the problem, because I appreciate Marvel trying to do diversity, but I also don't appreciate how like the stories really aren't well written.
No.
The stories really come off as forced for me. Like personally for me, they come off as really forced, and like they're not really like criticizing themselves. If that makes any sense. Like they're not really like, you know, the new Thor, the female Thor. There was like a panel of her punching a guy and just like, you know, resolving a problem just by talking to them, where it's like really like, you know, what is that? Like that's not what Thor is.
No.
No.
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, there are problems on both sides of the argument for you pushing diversity and people who are saying like it's kind of a bit forced. Like, you know, when people are saying it's forced, I feel like they're kind of referring to like how it's not really well written. You know, that's a thing. Like, you know, people want to see well written stories, but also people, for me personally, I really want to see like more like, you know, just diversity in cast. Like not even just like people of color, just people having different like personalities, I guess, because like it's probably it's honestly the same movie. It's either just like main character's just like this old grizzled war hero, and like, you know, he tries to like find friendship, and it's like the power of friendship in the end saves everything, you know. Like you don't really see that many like deviations, or like, you know, especially like, you know, comparing to like Japanese media. In a lot of anime, you'll see animes just have bad endings, and like, you know, you don't see that in American media, because we put so much focus on just having like the hero win in the end.
Yeah.
That is true.
Which is important. Like you know, you don't want to give like all depressing stories all the time, but it's important also to have like, you know, to show stories where, you know, sometimes people can't change, or sometimes you know,
like
everything won't be something won't be okay, you know.
Yeah. I understand that.
Yeah. So, your 2 cents on it, Rose. Do you have like any like 2 cents on like the whole romance and stories, and like how sometimes it can get in the way?
Of course. I feel like within the stories, I feel like sometimes when there's a romance, I feel like sometimes maybe it hinders the story itself, because you feel like, oh my god, let's, like you said, an action movie or something like that, or an action story. You're just like, oh my gosh, I'm here for the action. Then suddenly it diverges into romance, and you're just like, okay, but this isn't really what I signed up for. Like, it's cute and stuff, but like, I understand why people wouldn't include it sometimes, but like, it really kind of hinders or like gets in the way of like what's really important. And like, I feel like that's like when it comes to like things that where romance doesn't really fit into it as well or as much, I feel like that should be left to like the shipping culture or like the fandom itself.
Yeah.
Say like, hey, these two would look cute together, and maybe like then you can like feed them like, hey, even though we didn't show that much romance about these two characters with each other, like they are together in the story, or something along those lines, because like you're just there for the story. You want to see how they progress. You want to see how these characters progress. And if a romance does get in the way of that, or if the romance just kind of blocks everything off to what you want to see, it's not really succeeding as well.
Especially if it's not well written. Like if it's just like, oh, you saved me. Like if it's like a guy and a girl, like, oh, you saved me, now I love you now. Or like the guy will just like start out hating the main character, and then like by the end they love each other. Like that's what's kind of like, like, you know, I'm powerful for being a girl. Like that's when it comes off as just like kind of pandering.
Yeah.
Oh wait. I can edit that out.
Okay. Ah!
Oh.
Phew.
Don't worry. It's fine. I can edit that out.
Okay.
Don't. We're being professional.
Okay.
Oh, but anyway, yeah. So I feel like my whole problem with the whole romance and story just kind of comes down to like if it's well written. Like I feel, you know, back to the pandering thing. I feel like you can write a romance well, and you can write it bad.
Yeah.
Bad that is true.
Yeah. Just it'll just come to the point where you just see everything, and like you've kind of just seen every media. Like one thing that I want to bring up is actually the manga group Clamp, who like writes a lot of manga and has done a lot of anime. Like what I love about them is that they talk about different kinds of love, not just romantic love. They talk about familial love or friendship and things like that. and like sometimes how love doesn't work, how sometimes distance will kind of like change love and things like that.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
And it's just like really interesting to see that different perspective, because you really don't see that. Like I guess in Pixar movies you see people talking about how, you know, how we're family and we're friends and stuff, but you really don't see that a lot in like action movies. You really don't see like two people just being friends, or two people being so comfortable with each other that they're just like they just know each other like that, you know?
Yeah.
Or it's either just going to be a romance with the main guy or romance with the main girl, or the main girl's just like this really like tough woman, but then she ends up like showing her heart to this one guy.
Yeah.
Which is just, I mean, I'm kind of sick of it. Like I get it, but like, you know, I'm here for the action, or I'm here for the sci-fi or whatever.
Yeah.
Like if I want to watch a romance, I'll watch a romance.
Yeah.
Like either do the romance well or just don't do it at all. I feel like that's the point. And like sometimes romances can actually get in the way of a plot.
Oh yeah.
It's just, like,
yes.
Which is either, you know, like they probably try to kidnap one of the lovers to use them against each other, and you know, kind of
Yes.
like that's a trope you see a lot. Like, you know, I'll hurt them if you don't give me this like key to like unlocking unlocking this ultimate power. Like that's something you see a lot in anime, which I'm kind of like about. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it's just kind of that whole thing where, you know, it kind of gets tiring after a while. Like, I'd really like them to see doing something unique. Like, maybe in more mainstream movie, they could do, like, you know, themes about friendship, or things about, like, familial love, too. Because we really don't see, like, Marvel families. Like, that's one thing the Marvel Universe hasn't done. We haven't seen families.
No, you kind of see Hawkeye's family in, you know, Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
Oh,
But,
yeah.
Yeah. That's the only time you ever really see, like, a family setting.
Yeah. And, like, you know, they should do that more, because it'd be interesting. Because even in, like, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, you know, the whole family thing, like, I'm not going to spoil it, but they kind of just handle it like any other story. Yeah, he just something like that, it just gets tiring. Because, you know, there are different types of love out there. There's also, like, you know, a romantic love, where you just kind of, you're together with someone, but you don't feel like, you're just like really comfortable. You don't feel like that kind of whole sexual desire to something, which is also something that can happen, you know?
That is true.
Especially if we're talking about stories that have fantasy, or like, you know, sci-fi, where they go to other planets or other dimensions, you know? Like, not everyone is going to have the same concept of love, or like even gender, as humans do.
That is true.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like you can't expect like these like people from a different dimension to have the same concept out of the family, you know? It'd be interesting to see like them try different things with that, but you know, that's just how media works. Like, you know, it sells more if you have a romance story. You know?
That is true.
Yeah, very much.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, him talking about that actually did my comic. Like, there is, like, happens something in the future, but, like, I'm not telling you any character names, obviously, you know, spoilers. But, there's just, like, my two main characters, of course. I'm, like, one of the two main characters, obviously. They are kind of really close to each other when they were children, and eventually become, of course, they become romantically in love with each other. But they didn't really show it, and I don't really focus that much on those two characters and their love for each other, because not just they are main characters, but I feel like that doesn't like really play a role. I'm like, maybe I can show how they're gonna how they kind of fall in love with each other, but like, I'm not making it fully focused on their love. I just want to make it focused on the main character's journey throughout the world.
Like how they, you know, how they mature, like how they change the world, and like, you know, how they affect people around them.
Yes.
Because I feel like with that, it's just like, you know, we were talking about, it just like overtakes the story sometimes. Like sometimes, like if you have like side comments about like, you know, how they're growing closer, that's fine. But like I feel like if it takes the whole plot in the story, then it's kind of a problem.
It really feels like it's overshadowing.
Yeah, just like that. And especially since like also like talking about like those different types of love, you really don't see a lot of like, at least homosexual relationships in a lot of mainstream media.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like that's what you don't see. Like, yeah, I mean, you only see it really in shipping culture.
Oh, prepare to see that in that comic.
Yeah.
And, like, if anyone who knows me in real life knows my comic, you know you're ready to see that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Which is great. And also, like, one thing, if you didn't have anything else to add, Digiathena, I wanted to like talk about like one thing that kind of relates to it. You know, like it's Hollywood and anime. Like, people do not know how to write happy couples. Like, either they get divorced or broken up, or one of them dies. Like, you know, people don't know how to write happy couples, which is also like, you can have a well-established couple, but then like you'll just either be side characters or they won't be main characters.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, or you know, or they won't, like, one of them will die. Like the spouse will, like you said, the trope, like the spouse will die and the other spouse will get like, you know, really edgy and angry and like go on their own lone wolf journey. Like, I feel like that's something people could also focus on, because like, you know, like, you know, relationships are complicated, but like, you know, there's also good moments. Like, even if you fight all the time, at the end of the day, you still are going to be together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Definitely.
So, yeah. So I think if no one has anything to add, this is about the end of our podcast. So, anything got to say, Digiathena?
I do. So we have an icebreaker for the end of the podcast.
Okay.
And I'll give an example of this. So, what's the superpower you already possess? For me, I'll start because it's kind of hard to think about. So the superpower / super ability I already possess, and why, is empathy for me, because I can always tell when someone's not doing, at their best, before they like tell me. I'm like an emotional sponge. I soak up people's energy, emotions, whatever, whether it's like good or bad. So I think I'd be like an empathic, where I'd like read emotions, versus telepathic, which, you'd read minds with.
Huh.
All right.
I'd say a superpower I'd have is just like to know useless knowledge. Like, I know a lot of useless anime knowledge I'm probably never gonna use in my life, but like I remember it, so.
Unless you're on a game show that's about anime.
Yeah, basically. But we're not in Japan, and I don't know how to speak Japanese, so probably zero chance. Yeah. And what about you, Rose? Anything you?
That's pretty hard to think about. But
Creativity.
like creative, that's already my superpower in real life.
Yeah. So, yeah.
But if I really had to think about it, I suppose somehow people always say it's because like if they know me in real life, they know I'm like extremely kind and everything. I feel like that's a power itself because, well, I've gone through a lot of garbage in my life. Of course, we all have, but like through this garbage, I still remain like really kind, bubbly, and cheerful. Like Alibaba here knows me.
Yeah.
And and like there are times I'm salty, of course, but like it's that kindness, I suppose, that really affects others, because not just am I kind to others, but like eventually that kindness rubs off on them. And I just hope that kindness they will keep for the rest of their lives, and I just hope that they will become better people and they will find happiness with this kindness I've given them.
Like that thing
It's
in
a good
psychology,
superpower.
you're self-actualized. Like you want to, help yourself, but also help other people around you, like, find themselves. Which is pretty cool, yeah.
True, there's the way around
so,
intruder.
Yeah, so you have the anime power of friendship.
Of course, you give me the common truth.
Yeah. Just give you the trope where you're like, you just make friends with everyone and just have the power to take on the world,
Basically, I'm Sailor Moon.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
I'm Sailor Moon.
Yeah, you'll slay people in the power of the moon. Oh, no, you'll slay people in the name of the moon. That's a quote.
Yes.
All right, so now to do outros. So my name's Alibaba. I'll have all my social media down in the description. Biggest weeb on the planet? Probably not. I've only finished like 40 anime. Not that much compared to other people.
Second biggest weeb.
You know what? All right, and
Hi, I'm Digiathena. So thank you for listening to our podcast. And links of our social media and such are down in the description box, indeed. All right. And we'd like to thank our special guest, Rose, for being with us today.
No problem at all. I love being here.
Yeah,
Hope you guys enjoyed my opinions and such. And if you ever do read my comic, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope to update real soon, or at least more constantly.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And we'll put everything in the description, all the recommendations, then put all the comics and anything we recommend, we'll put it on the description. And, everyone just enjoy your night.
All right.
Bye-bye.
We are logging out.
Peace.
Peace. Bye.
I can unedit that. There. Okay, we're good. It recorded. Wait.